Hey everyone, let's cross the Expanse from M90 to M58. Welcome to SETI Astro. I took 32 hours of exposure on this image, 18 of which was just in RGB. There was some fainter continuum structure that I wanted to capture, specifically above M89. There is a star trail that you don't see very often imaged. Let me stretch it further for us. You can see it up here. It is present relatively strongly here in red. It's also here present in green, although a little bit less so. And then blue, it's much fainter, suggesting that it's mostly comprised of older, redder stars. It's not imaged very often. It is hard to tease out of the background. With M89 being so structureless, I'm almost wondering if it is a completely separate low surface brightness galaxy and not part of M89, but I haven't been able to find anything written up about it. Looking at the combined RGB, again, you can see the stellar stream up here just faintly. Didn't do a whole lot of stretching on this yet. M90 down here, great dust structure here in the core. And M58 with these beautiful arcs spiraling around. Not a whole lot of color yet, but that's why I have all that additional hydrogen and oxygen data. I took 32 15-minute exposures in hydrogen, performing the continuum subtraction. There isn't as much structure here in these galaxies as in some of the others that I've imaged, which I found surprising. In hydrogen here in M90, it's pretty much the disk of the core. And down in M58, there's a knot in the upper section of it, but nothing too broad or of to note there. And then in M89, again, almost featureless. In oxygen, I got 24 15-minute exposures. Continuum subtracting. In M90 here, it does have a couple little knots of potentially supernova remnants, but M58 is where the oxygen really shined. There's a beautiful arc of oxygen here coming out of the core disk structure and up and around, following one of those loops. Really tells you that there must be a lot of activity in that loop in order to generate enough energy to ionize oxygen like that. I did combine them, and you can see here M58 again with that blue arc and then the knotted hydrogen structure. And then over to M90's disk here, mostly hydrogen with a couple of those little knots of potentially supernova remnants. And then up here, M89, essentially featureless. Adding in the continuum subtracted data and doing my final stretch, we have M90 off here to the left with its beautiful core and gas structure on the central disk. Kind of a featureless blob for M89, but it does have that nice stellar stream up here. And then down to M58, it does have these beautiful arcs going around it and a nice central disk structure in its core too. I think M58 for me was the most surprising one. I haven't seen that image too often either. For the stars, I did use the 4x palette utility script to get those narrowband to RGB stars for me. And finally combining everything in the final image here from M90 all the way to M58 and everything in between. Looking at some interesting features besides the 3 Messier objects, there's actually 3 galaxy clusters, 2 of which are here next to M90. What's really surprising about these objects is the actual distance out to these PGC galaxies. Looking up the redshifts, they lie about 1.2 billion light years away. They're very distant galaxies, and it was nice to be able to really pick them up well in my image. Another cluster here with a couple of these PGC objects as well. I was not able to find much information at all on some of them, especially these two redder objects, PGC 169605 and 165250. They're very red in my image, potentially from hydrogen, but there's really not anything in the literature for it. And then as far as structures within the galaxies themselves go, they're not very well cataloged galaxies for various structure, so it really only led to a couple items being in any of the catalogs, specifically near the core of M90. And doing a hard stretch, some of the quasars do have a couple pixels worth of light inside them, which is always good to see that you've picked up some very distant objects. This one here specifically is very red in color. I haven't had a chance yet to look up redshifts to some of these more distant quasars. I have updated Astrobin with my image of stretching across M58, M89, and M90. And I did include the annotated version for the mouse over. I have acquisition details, location in the sky, a write-up on some of those objects, including the galaxy clusters, and some close-in crops, including the narrowband subtracted data on M58 and M90. I have a close-in of M89 and its stellar stream, along with some of those galaxy clusters. I have also updated my website, SETIastro.com, with the mouse over zoom-in version of the main image, some close-in crops, the write-up and link to Astrobin, and the zoomed-in annotated version as well. Both images are clickable, so you can go ahead and download the full-size images. I also want to say I've updated my website with my first script. I have a dedicated page for PixInsight scripts now. If you haven't gotten my new Star Stretch script, that's where to find it. I hope you liked the video. Please comment, like, and subscribe.